it's gonna be awkward.
I don't get it. You do the math.
Boom, what up? What up? We are back. We are back. We got another week. We're moving along. We're actually doing this one same week.
Same week, yeah.
We're
We're having to do it a little early.
We're a little early, but this is good. I'm actually really enjoying this. But
I like it because I still feel in that mode of it.
yeah.
And then I feel the energy. So
Well, it's like there's that momentum from last week's buzz.
and give us the time to get tired and whatnot.
Exactly, dude. But we're turning and burning, moving along with episode 9, and we've got perhaps one of the craftiest of our favorite people.
I was gonna say probably, well, not probably. He's got to be the wisest guest by far that we've ever had,
for sure.
and that's no other than BJJ black belt, current MMA fighter, Paris the Superman.
Ooh, so close.
Superhero,
dude.
I knew that. See, I got
dude.
nervous for a second 'cause I was doing everything pretty well because I'm bad at that at the start, and then I was like, damn.
Just Paris, superhero, Stanford.
You've got a shirt. You've got like
Right.
how many
I know.
shirts do you have?
Ooh, I should have wore the shirt. I knew it.
I know.
Oh my goodness.
Well, no, the other one's was the green logo, and it just says Paris Stanford.
Yeah, the black one. that
Yeah,
has, like,
yeah,
the
yeah.
jiu-jitsu one. Yeah, with the
Yeah.
logo.
Yep.
Well, welcome in, dude. We really
Thanks, guys.
appreciate you coming.
No, I appreciate you guys having me on, man.
Yeah, dude. This is like so cool because you are so wise,
I appreciate
and
that.
and like it normally, it's just us being silly and stuff. But like I feel like today we're gonna get into some
Yeah,
shit.
like-
Okay. You don't got to be
have-
too serious, though. You
No,
know?
No, you're
but-
not never serious. What I mean mainly is like I'm referring to your Instagram stories because I actually get a ton of inspiration just watching them because I love to just watch them because you get it out so early in the morning like we were talking about
Yeah.
before, and it's always like either a word of the day or some sort of inspirational message to help, whether it be a student, a fan, whoever,
Yeah.
Can pick up your insights. So it's super.
I appreciate that. Like I said, I mean, I figure if it's not positive, why are you doing it?
Yeah.
You know, I don't see why a lot of people are on social media or Instagram. Be honest, if I wasn't a fighter, trying to promote myself, things like that, I probably wouldn't be as big on social media, And if it was, it would be something like kind of what I'm doing in
Right.
tandem with that, posting fight stuff is, trying to inspire people, motivate people to do things. And it wasn't something that I really did until more recently. Now, obviously, I feel like I've been a wise person, in my life, and a little bit of inspirational, I guess, to other people. But as far as the themes of the day that I do, Monday through Friday for the most part, I usually take the weekends off, from the social media part of it to reset. But I would do the themes for myself. And then a buddy of mine just, was saying how cool it was. Like, man, you should share that with people. You should, maybe put that on your story. And I had planned initially just to do it for like a week, okay, I'll just share it with people so they can maybe do it for themselves. And I got to my surprise and shock a little bit, was such a positive response and so many different DMs and messages and just saying how much people appreciated it. And please keep doing it, because it helps. So I was like, wow, I think I'm stuck doing this now.
It's such a cool thing. Like I personally am so hard on people on social media, and particularly people who are in the story game, people who post a lot of stories and take up a lot of story time because to a degree you're asking someone to tune into your life and your day, and you've got to make sure that there's some sort of value that you can instill. Otherwise, you're just wasting people's time.
Absolutely.
And if it's just nonsense to make yourself feel good about what you're doing in your day or something to that you think makes you look cool, is so lost and it falls on such deaf ears. But when you post these stories, dude, it is like it's such a captivating thing that like
Right.
I'll make sure I turn my volume on so I can hear what you're saying, and I listen to them and stuff like that. So I think there's so much that can be learned for people who are also trying to build their pages or like build a presence even. Look at someone like you who's real and instilling value in each post. It's not just bullshit.
Yeah, well, and it's like the word today, authenticity. I mean, it really shows in the post, because I think a big reason where the criticism comes from is that when you watch a story and you see someone that's, I guess, a self-help guru, you can see that there's not as much authenticity that you can see through that. But sorry, my phone's going off.
Popping.
But yeah, it's you can really see that in your post, and you can see the consciousness and the thought that's going into the story, that you're actually thinking about what you're saying. You're not just saying whatever the last guy on his story said,
Exactly.
So
I think that's a big thing. Isn't it crazy though how easy it is to see when somebody's being real and authentic?
100%.
It's like an unspoken language. I think the verbal, the audio that's coming out of our mouth is like the least form of communication, and we've forgotten how to like communicate otherwise with our instinct, intuition. I think that's a bigger thing.
Yeah.
I think people kind of resonate when you see somebody being real and saying something, not just out of their ego, but they're saying it, out of a deeper part of themselves and trying to help people. I know that people resonate with that.
You can easily see it, man, and you can almost feel it in the tone of the voice.
Right, it's a big thing, tone, right?
Yeah.
That's a great point.
You can feel it almost immediately. Like, are you talking to your story like you're talking to someone on the phone? If so, there's a good chance you're doing it right, because that's just a real conversation between you and another person. But when you get some sort of crazy like voice that you think people use on TV, they don't use that voice.
Exactly. In real life.
Sir. I mean, it's great. Like we learned that through doing this. I think so quick, just like
quick,
yeah. Like I think we started out with some crazy voices, and it just didn't sound like us.
Well, yeah, we shot the first episode ever, and we were like, "What are we doing right now? Like, this is not us at all." Like.
That was back on the social, like when we started Socially Awkward, before even Awkward MMA.
Yeah.
But dude, that's not. So for you, like how much does wisdom play a part in jiu-jitsu? In practicing?
I think it's a big part, as far as, wisdom and essentially comes from our elders, right? I think that's another big thing that's missing from our society, and is respect for our elders, right?
Sure.
And I think I've been smart enough growing up to listen to other people that had the experience. So like going into jiu-jitsu, you can learn a lot from the higher belts when you're the white belt. Some people will come in as white belts and feel like, I know way too much, way too quick. You got that white belt coach. Instead of calling over the black belt, he's going to try to relay information to the other guy who's just as fresh as him. You know, so if you can kind of kill your ego a little bit on the mat and say, okay, I don't know. If you want to know anything, obviously you have to admit to yourself, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. And
That's
it's okay.
true.
In our society, what's one of the worst things is not to know something. You're shunned for it. You're acting like you're a leper, or you just, you're not a good person, or you're dumb or whatever. No, knowledge is something that comes from not knowing first.
Yes.
Right. So,
100%.
100%, dude. That is the most profound thing that we've ever said on a show, and we didn't even say it. So thank you. I mean, but like that is 100% true, because I don't understand what it is about not knowing something that is not okay. Like experts don't know stuff.
Yeah, I think the thing is, for me, what I think it is, in my opinion, is control, right? Everybody wants to have some form of control.
Right.
Knowledge is power. When you don't know, therefore you feel like you don't have power, therefore you feel like you don't have control.
Right.
So even when people don't know things, it's amazing how they'll say something ignorant with confidence. Right?
It's crazy. It's so
Right.
crazy. But we see it so much today with social media,
100%.
Yeah.
Do you find that like there's another way to gain control outside of knowledge, like when you don't know something?
Absolutely. And it's called humble. It's called humbling yourself, because life is full of incredible situations that will humble you if you don't humble yourself. There's a great saying, I wish I remember this doctor's name. I'll have to get it for you later. But he was saying that, ignorance is the anesthesia that deadens the pain of stupidity. I absolutely love that.
Yeah.
Right? So people will,
cling on to that
Oh, you
for
know it.
dear life, man.
You know it.
I had a quote for a while, like I posted on my Instagram that was ignorance is not bliss.
Yeah, well, it's because you grow up here, and I was gonna add that on earlier. It's like you grow up here, and ignorance is bliss. So like,
Right.
you're almost taught at a young age from common society almost to stay away from those deep thoughts and those and finding those answers.
What you don't know won't hurt you, sort of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
But then we put so much pressure on knowledge and knowing stuff.
So we shelter ourselves, but also give ourselves a hard time for not knowing. It's weird. It's really a weird
crazy.
system.
Yeah, it's a very strange dynamic, but it's ingrained in us, and it, like I said, it happens from an early age. A lot of it happens to do with our school system.
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
And there's an amazing gentleman I've been listening to recently. His name Sir Ken Robinson, and I'd really highly advise anybody who's interested in education or as a teacher yourself, and just listen to this gentleman speak about some of the problems, the inherent problems that come with learning or teaching. And, we're taught to conform, our creativity's killed. And, it's amazing.
I had read or seen something somewhere that the entire public school system was created
To make workers, man.
exactly because we had so much innovation at one point, and then we needed a way to mass produce all of these inventions and stuff like that, and so we created factory workers.
Absolutely.
And now we're at a point where we need more innovation, and we have a surplus of factory workers, and now we have a surplus of technology that can replace those factory workers.
Oh yeah, and that's happening.
Yeah, and so at an alarming rate.
Now you shoot everyone's creativity. Now they don't know how to think and have an imagination.
So they want to stuff you into lockers for taking art class or trying to play an instrument.
You get an F on a class, or you get yelled at because you draw on your paper. That always happened to me. They're like, I docked you 5 points because you doodled a little something in the corner. And I'm like, come on. I finished the test early.
Exactly. Human beings, we all want to be creative.
Yeah.
And when we can't do that, we can't express ourselves.
Right.
Creative expression is a humongous thing to liberate and feel free.
For sure.
So when you can't do that, I think that's why a lot of people are acting out in weird ways, or they talk about the suicide rate and, and how high it is. And, I think that's a contributing factor is, we can't express ourselves freely and honestly.
Right.
So.
Go ahead.
When did you find that, or how long did it take you when starting jiu-jitsu? Did you realize that that was a really good creative outlet and a really positive creative
Man, that
outlet?
was like an instant thing, the first time you get in it, you're just like, wow, this is amazing.
Right.
This is something that I know I'm going to probably do my whole life. When I first stepped on there, I had the intention of becoming a black belt, not just go in and, when I first did my class, I was like, I'm going to be doing this till I get my black belt, period. I don't care what happens, And it was just something I totally committed to, And it wasn't like, oh, I hope I get it. I'm going to do my best. No, this is an inevitable thing that's going to happen sooner or later. I was going 2-a-days, I started competing after like a month. I mean, I just went all in.
When did you start? How long ago was that?
This was late 2010. I did my first actual jiu-jitsu class.
Dang.
And then from there, started competing, in beginning of the year in 2011 and just kept going.
That is incredible.
Yeah.
Wow. And what a testament to your dedication and skill to be able to do it in such a short amount of time.
Absolutely.
I mean, that is incredible.
And I actually had, some things that a lot of people don't know that set me out a little bit, and that black belt probably would have came a lot quicker too. Like when I got my blue belt, I went into a tournament. It was a UFC Grapplers Quest they had in Vegas. So they used to do this tournament. I don't know if they still do, but they coupled it with the UFC Expo.
Okay.
So it was a huge thing. It was pretty cool. Went up there. I was maybe a little overconfident, and I was going into an actual no-gi. I didn't do any no-gi stuff, and I went into one of my first no-gi tournaments. So I'm fresh off getting my blue belt, feeling really confident, and I jumped into the advanced division. Now, usually it goes like a novice, beginner, intermediate, advanced. Now, obviously, advanced is where all the higher belts, like black belts, are going to be.
Right.
So I jumped my little blue belt self into the black belt division, and not knowing as well, like, about the whole leg lock game.
Right.
So somebody catches me like in a heel hook, and I do a silly move and actually get out of it. So I just kind of turn, ripping my leg out, and I get out. We go back to scrapping again, and he ends up getting me back in that same thing. Okay, I'll do the same thing, but this time he had a better actually hold on it. I turned, I pulled my leg out. It felt like somebody took their fist to the side of my leg and just like hit it. That's the feeling of my ACL exploding.
It just snapped?
Just like that.
Oh,
so
God.
I'm out now, having to get reconstructive surgery, getting a cadaverous ligament put in, and now having to go through the whole rehab process.
Come on.
Right?
That's brutal.
And this is after I'm older than 30 at that point, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not a youngster. So yeah, I had to take off about 9 months off the mat, and rehab and get healthy and just to get back and pursue it again. But I had no doubts once again at that point, as much as it sucked, that I was going to make it back and recover and, dare I say, be better, than I was when I left.
Absolutely. That's incredible. And how much did did that motivate you more going through the surgery and stuff?
Yeah, not just
rehabbing,
going through the surgery. It did a couple things for me. One, I definitely used that time. You can't train physically, but I did what a lot of people still don't do, even when they're healthy, is the mental aspect of it.
Yeah.
I trained my mind. I became a better student of the game.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I say, everything happens for a reason. You can sit there and cry about something happening, or you can digest it, accept it, and then figure out what is the great benefit because of this. How is this going to work for my good?
Right.
And it did. It greatly served me. Another thing that it showed me is that this is not forever, and you never know what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. So people would tell me like things. Jiu-jitsu's led me to MMA. I started jiu-jitsu with the intention of becoming an MMA fighter. I wanted that as my background, and that's how you finish fights.
Mm-hmm.
And it just showed me that, for one, that you can't do this forever, and you never know what's going to happen. So when I get into like the cage and stuff, I'm like, wow, people are like, how are you able to do something like that? It's got to be so crazy. It is. It's a very high stress kind of thing. There's a lot of growth in it though. And the way that I do it is with the perspective of, what's crazier to me, what causes me more anxiety, more fear, is if I had to sit in a 9-to-5 job in something like a building or cubicle, no windows, and that's my life. I'd rather be getting punched in the face.
Right.
I'd rather be in a cage fighting, because that's a free form of expression for me.
Right.
I've never felt more alive. I've never been more in the moment.
Man, that is such a cool thing to be able to be okay with that. I think a lot of people really wish they could be like that.
It's perspective.
Yeah.
Right. And it's not like I just came out like that.
Right.
Life is a process. It's growth. It's small beginnings, man.
For
the average person from my hometown that, I was born in Yuma, Arizona, and people that know of me now doing jiu-jitsu or MMA and stuff, like, Paris, are you kidding me? Dude, he was so sensitive. He was a, smaller kid for the most part. I didn't have a good growth spurt till like my junior year of high school,
Yeah.
Right. So I've come a long way, but traveling, not taking the elevator, taking the steps.
Right.
Each step I got a little bit stronger. Each step I understood how I got there. If I would have got to the top, I couldn't stay there.
Right.
Yeah, everything is kind of a layer that you build on, and then like in order to get to that next level, you got to keep what you were doing and then add on that next layer.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, you start what happens, or what's happened to me in my life is when, like, I'll feel like I'm ready to go to that next level. I start doing next level stuff, but then I stop doing the stuff that got me to that current level. And then it all fucking falls out from under me.
Yeah.
So it's so important to stay doing what you're doing and then add those next layers on.
Absolutely. That reminds me of like meditation.
Mm-hmm.
I used to have really bad anxiety. That's another thing people probably don't know. Low depression and anxiety, specifically anxiety, right? To the point where I couldn't even get in a car and drive down the street without having a full-on panic attack. Couldn't hold a job, like bad,
Damn.
And doing something.
Fight people.
Yeah, right. I get in a car, I can get in front of thousands of people. I fight on national TV, things like that. But it's a perspective thing. As you grow, you understand, you see it from a different angle.
For
sure. But it wasn't always like that, and things like meditation definitely help, breathing exercises. But the point I was trying to make is once you feel better, it doesn't mean you should stop doing that now.
Right.
That's what got me to feeling better. Now, what am I going to wait until I feel bad again and then do it? No, it's a lifestyle. Like people talk about diet. It's not diet, it's a lifestyle.
Right.
You know, I'm going to diet when I get fat. No, make it your lifestyle.
That's so true, though, because even with meditation, I found that in my own life because I'm the same. I've dealt with anxiety as long as I could think of. I don't even know where it came from.
Yeah, so many people, right? And it's not that. It's the environment we're in. Anxiety is kind of like a natural thing telling you, hey, something's not. It's depression, same thing. So it's not a just chemical imbalance. They make it sound like, no, it comes from somewhere.
Right.
It's your body's innate way of telling you something needs to change. Something's not right. This environment, like I was talking in my story as well, we're organic creatures, right? This environment is not suited for the growth that needs to happen.
Right.
You need to change something.
Right.
Right.
We got it. It's up to us at all times. I was going to ask too, because we were talking about the meditation stuff, or while you were on your layoff with the surgery and recovering, how much did you work on breathing exercises and like just learning the advantages of breathing, or were you already doing that?
You know, I would do it. I probably picked it up a bit more just because of the circumstance. And then as you start getting older, wiser, you know, you start learning, like, why would I stop doing something like that?
Right.
You know, I can't wait till, you know, I'm sitting here now bedridden, so to speak, with, you know, a bum leg. And now I have to really channel myself to just stay positive and, you know, so.
I was watching Crone Gracie's open workout for his fight this weekend. And what he did, he literally just sat there in a crisscross applesauce on his open mat and just did these breathing exercises, these really cool movement and breathing exercises that his dad used to do with him when he was a little kid. And he's like, why do I have to do this? And he's like, well, I'm not really sure, but, you know, I just think I should. And, you know, it's like that. All that stuff is so connected and so helpful.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, it's like I feel like layering onto things is so helpful because I was listening to something a few years ago and it was like, it takes 30 days to make a habit. So then once you make that habit, now it's in your habit regimen for 30 days, then add the next thing. Do that for 30 days, but don't get rid of the thing you just did for 30 days. So then slowly add the new habits. And then meanwhile, you have like 12 habits that are great habits, like making bed, eating healthy, and working out, and whatever it is, and then you just slowly add. But I think a lot of us just get super impatient. So I think impatience is
ain't that a big thing missing right now?
That's huge. It's such an issue. How long did it take for you to transition before you started like with mixing everything in, you know, and doing MMA?
Well, what do you mean exactly?
Like going from just competing jiu-jitsu to like striking and throwing it all together.
Yeah. You know, I think that's one benefit as well, exclusively kind of doing jiu-jitsu and dedicating myself to that for a few years before I actually started heavy and, you know, getting into mixed martial arts and all. Right. So I would say by the time I was a blue belt, started doing just a little bit of striking, boxing, you know, but still I didn't have a good foundation. I was pretty much just hitting mitts, you know, just learning how to punch. But there's so much more to it, you know, and believe it or not, it's not till more recently since Santino DeFranco came around, Fight Ready, in the last few years, you know, that I really feel like I had a head coach. I had somebody to kind of guide and direct me. And, you know, also guys like, you know, Roman Salazar and Frankie Saenz were some of the first guys that even showed me how to friggin' stand.
Right.
You know,
really?
And, like I didn't know nothing. I was just making it up as I went. You know, I think a lot of my kind of funky style and creativity on the mat, you know, in MMA comes from not having that foundation. And it was like, you go in there with these guys that are just already like veterans in the sport. And to survive, you better get real crafty real quick. Right. You know, so a lot of funky stuff that I do comes from not having that same foundation. And now I'm kind of backtracking, trying to get the foundation. And, you know, it's a great thing that happened that for me, I was able to use my creativity more than, say, some of the average guys that are learning the structure. You know, they're in the matrix, so to speak, in the box. And I was kind of free from that form initially. So.
Did working and competing just jiu-jitsu first allow, like, basically give you that freedom?
Yeah, it definitely it helped me for sure to develop my jiu-jitsu more than it would have if I was trying to blend and mix everything initially.
Right. Yeah.
You know, so kind of being purely in an art form. Same like a pure boxer is going to have better hands than an average guy in MMA.
So when you come in, you kind of have a little bit more freedom to be sort of creative in the other parts
Yeah, absolutely.
of the sport.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, because I remember one of your you had a fight a few years ago. I remember seeing was it a first round? Was it a flying guillotine or
Ooh, flying armbar?
Armbar. It was the
Yeah,
flying armbar.
that's-
God, I
Yeah.
remember, and
I
it's
almost
so
finished
crazy.
that thing too, right? I finished by armbar in the second, but yeah, those first round came out.
Yeah.
It's actually me and old buddy of mine now, Magic Mike Hamill. He's a great fighter, super strong, you know, talented young kid, and yeah, just had a nice little overhook on his arm, and you know, he had me pressed on the cage. I pressed him off and just hopped to it, man, and he was holding me in midair, trying to get his arm out.
Doing superhero stuff,
Yeah,
dude.
it was good.
That's really such a cool thing when the flying submissions take place, dude.
Yeah.
I love those.
But especially too, my main point with that is like when I remember seeing that happening, I did not realize how pretty soon you were in your career at that point.
Oh
Probably.
yeah, no.
And
that-
throwing flying arm bars. Like
Yeah.
the only one we'd ever seen do it was Demetrius Johnson. And
Yeah.
then we're like, oh shit, there was a flying arm bar. And then, you know, you're throwing a flying knee and
Yeah.
like just stuff that you would think you'd been training striking too
Yeah, no.
and stand up your entire life.
That was my second sanctioned event, a second fight, man. Right?
Damn.
First one I
Oh
came
my
out and
God,
jump kicked the dude and
no.
just off the bat. And less than a minute later, you know, ended up arm barring him and ground and pound all that in arm bar. Yeah.
Gosh.
You want to come out, you know, I just remember thinking at that time, you have one chance to make a first impression. Just make one, right?
Yeah.
Let's not just go out there and be timid. Hey, throw a little caution to the wind. Let people know you're here.
Yeah, man. That is cool.
That's a great mindset to have. Like, make a statement with whatever you do.
Absolutely, right?
Especially, I have to remember that too, especially when I'm even up here and or doing a video by myself. Like, all right, I got to show my actual personality. I can't be
Yeah.
timid, you know, and that, because that's not what people want to see, you know.
No,
So
they want to see you, and
Mhm.
you know they can tell when you're not being you, even if they don't know you. That's so
Especially
crazy, right?
fighting, you know,
Oh.
like especially fighting. That's you know, like you hear it in the arena with the boos and stuff.
Yeah.
When people aren't fighting honestly.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, sometimes too. Yeah,
yeah,
you know.
sometimes there's
Some
some
people are like,
uneducated-
figure
there's
it out.
some
I don't know what jujitsu is. Stand them up.
There's definitely some bullshit.
Yeah.
Definitely some
If you're in
bullshit.
Japan and they boo,
Oh,
but
yeah,
you know,
because
you're
they're
doing-
super quiet, respectful. and-
Yeah.
I will say this though, on that point, you know, being in the cage is one of the most honest forms of expression. You know, and one of the things that when you're tired, everybody sees it.
Mhm.
You're scared,
Yep.
everybody sees it. When you're not prepared, everybody sees it. You know, you can't necessarily lie on that stage
Yeah,
under
right.
those hot lights, man.
Yeah, it's that universal language,
Yeah.
you know, that we've talked about even on the show, that like you don't need, there's no lying, you know. It's such a true universal language of reality,
Absolutely.
you know. It's cool.
Yeah.
All right, we gotta do a quick
break.
camera break.
All right.
We're back.
What up? Yeah, so right before it, you just mentioned flow state and how
Yeah.
time flies by. And I was just talking to him, and I wanted your take on this, but I was comparing like that flow state, that creativity state being really close to sleeping.
Mhm.
How you have sleep cycles, and then they say when you have a sleep cycle interrupted, then your sleep's not
Yeah.
the same, and you can't earn that sleep back. Once you've lost sleep, you can't necessarily get it back. And I was just thinking that with creativity and flow states, just because when that gets interrupted, it's almost like you get right taken out of that and you got to start back from square one.
Yeah.
Do you find that with yourself, or are you pretty easy to, or is your mind state in a place that you can just jump right into any place that you need to be?
Well, I guess that depends on what I'm trying to flow with. You know, is it going to be like an artistic thing? Am I trying to draw something, or am I just speaking? Am I doing jujitsu or martial arts? It really depends on what it is. Some things are easier to pull yourself back into a flow state. And other things, you know, I need to be alone. I need to be in silence. I need to be, you know, away from the crowd and people and their vibes and energy. I need to be on my own. So if it's something like I'm trying to get solitude to get in my flow state, and somebody interrupts that, that can be hard to get back into, because I've set an intention. I've got my mind, in a certain way. My brain waves are acting different, and now someone else's energy and everything came into that, and it kind of resets you or puts you in a different mode, So that can definitely be hard to get back into versus, say, if I'm on the mat or something and I make a little mistake. Very easy for me to get back into my flow state, even if I got temporarily pulled out of it because of something that happened. And partly because I don't want to call it a survival kind of thing, but there is some kind of, it's amazing some of the things that you can find in yourself when you need to, when the pressure's on, when the stakes are high, and maybe even when you're competing, your life's not in danger and all, but when you do get into that primal kind of state of fight or flight, there's a lot in there in the recesses of your mind and your subconscious that is quite frankly amazing, and I've had just a couple things in my life that kind of brought that to my attention. I was like, wow, I didn't know that was even in there. Right.
How much do you try to I guess control the states of your flow, or are you more so like, I'm feeling inspirational right now, I'll do my video? Like, how important is it for you to schedule things, or do you do it based off feeling?
Yeah. Now, once again, it definitely depends, on what I'm trying to get into and do. Yeah. But flow state is one of those things, when it's like the opposite of control. You can't have control. Right. You have to submit. And like being a jiu-jitsu black belt, submitting is not something you want to do. Right. Mm-hmm. So it's a little opposite, in that regard, that you have to be open, you have to be empty, right, in order to be filled with something else. Right. Yeah.
That's a cool way to be, and a cool way to understand it too. I mean, it's
not to be cliche, but it's really the Bruce Lee. You have to be water.
Absolutely. Just it takes many forms, right? But if you're saying that it has to be this right now or that, and not letting it be what it is, right?
Then you're just lying.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you're gonna get frustrated. It's a vicious cycle, when you have resistance to things, right?
Yeah. 100%.
It goes back to the ignorance thing, It's like if it's not true, it almost seems like there's like this understanding that it's not true. Whatever's going on, there's not a truth. Yeah. But like, that's okay, because then that doesn't make it real. Yeah. And then it doesn't affect them, but it does. That's the scary reality of it.
Well, then the cool thing about jiu-jitsu is that it's so raw in pure form, to where it's like for every move that there's a counter, and for every counter there's another attack. Yeah. So it's like, if you take that to your actual life, it's almost like you can be more calm, because they always tell you, right, you can't be under a lot of pressure when you're got someone, on top of you.
Oh, no, absolutely. Like with jiu-jitsu, it's one of the great sayings or slogans or what have you to live by in jiu-jitsu is getting comfortable in uncomfortable situations. I remember vividly when I would have somebody on top of me and I couldn't get out, and you would get in this kind of panic, claustrophobic state, and you would even panic tap, tap, get off me, I'm done,
Right, yeah.
I couldn't dream of doing that now. I have a different perspective on it. I understand, okay, even as a black belt, like when I compete, usually I'll get dropped down to the younger division, because, like most people don't know, I'll be 37 this year. I'm not a kid. I may look young.
Oh, really? You're 37?
Right?
You look young, dude.
But it's lifestyle, right?
Yeah.
I was born in December 24th, 1982.
Wow.
Christmas Eve, bro. Right?
That is what a Christmas Eve present.
Yeah. Wow.
So
that's cool.
Yeah. So, I mean, the kid I just fought in Canada, he's 22.
Wow.
We barely got out of that one, man. I almost ended his stuff, man. But he's a great fighter. Got the takedown, just kept me on the ground too long, But
it's those little technical things that go here or there in local guys, right?
No, absolutely.
I mean, it just is what it is. What I wanted to ask, a lot of people don't realize or understand like the differences in leagues, between like the UFC, Bellator, LFA, all of these other promotions that are professional.
Yeah.
What are like the differences?
Yeah, there's, I have I'll try not to say too much on this and get myself in trouble, but I remember when the UFC started coming around, there was a lot more competition, therefore a lot more opportunity for fighters.
Right.
You know, you could go here and there. You could go. There was Affliction. There was WEC. There was Strike Force. There was, there was all these different ones. There's did I say Affliction already?
Yeah.
You know, there was a lot of different ones, and the UFC just started buying them up,
Right.
buying them all up. And what they did essentially is create a monopoly on the game.
Yep.
Right. And now, with like say an exclusive sponsorship at Reebok, now these people can't even use their other sponsorships to make a amount of money. You got to kind of accept what it is. So UFC obviously is on the top. They've bought out all their competition for the most part, and they got kind of a stranglehold on MMA for the most part as well. But we are seeing other promotions that are considered a lower tier, like Bellator, which I don't think is significantly lower, because a lot of UFC fighters are kind of making their way over there.
I honestly wouldn't even say like I wouldn't even say it's a full tier, if even a half.
I would say
tier
it's a half.
Right.
They probably worked themselves up, because I think you
got
Pitbull, I think could do well.
Absolutely.
And Pitbull, I think, would do
He's a
well.
beast.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But-
it's branding though. UFC has the brand. They got
Yeah.
the name. Like, it's to the point that when you say you're a fighter, people say something silly like, "You do UFC." It's-
Exactly,
right? No, I
man.
do
It's
mixed
nuts.
martial arts. UFC is an organization within that.
Yeah.
As far as LFA, which I made my debut a few fights ago in July, is a great promotion that's kind of like a catapult. They're getting people to like what they consider the big show, like Bellator, the UFC.
Right.
But those are definitely the big two, and stateside at least. And then you have, I know they do events outside of the country as well, but like Risen, those ones are getting more
Right.
popular and notoriety. And
Would you ever do a 1FC
ONE FC
or that?
Oh,
Because
absolutely.
it seems like it really fits your style of just being. The only reason I say is
Yeah.
because they do the. They have-
Separate.
They have the separate. I know that they do. I think they do jiu-jitsu competitions, but I'm not sure yet if
Yeah,
they
I'm not
do that
sure.
yet. But
Sure it's coming.
but I know that they're more open to letting you compete in other places versus the UFC. I know sometimes can be a little bit strict on
Yeah.
competing in other
capacities.
in other capacities that aren't in the UFC.
Yeah, no, I would love to fight in one of those. Was that ONE FC? Is that Japan or is that
I think, where are they? I think they're actually just all in Asia, in all of
Oh,
Asia
yeah,
right
it's
now,
everywhere.
traveling
Yeah.
everywhere there.
No, I would love to. One of the places I would love to go is Japan. Like people joke
Yeah.
with me, like, "Bro, you probably wouldn't come back." That's
Yeah,
kinda
yeah.
your speed, And I always resonated kind of with that samurai culture. I really like respected that era, in time. Not saying it was all good and all, but there was something to be said, something that I always resonated with martial arts for one. But I always really appreciated like honor, discipline, honesty. It's just something about self-worth.
Mhm.
Like you're talking about a culture of people at that time that if you dishonored yourself, it's not like you would just go away. You would kill yourself.
Right.
You would,
Yep.
ritual
It was-
suicide.
Yeah.
Because you were dishonored. Like, wow. They talk about standing for something and dying for something. Like, people don't stand for nothing for the most part these days, unfortunately. Right?
Yeah,
So,
the philosophy of it's just
Yeah.
so empowering in a lot of ways.
Well, they knew. I think a big difference between us and them is they knew that ignorance wasn't bliss. You know what I'm saying?
Full circle.
But yeah, that's cool though. That'd be a good organization. I think for anybody that's like a real purist or a real purist fighter, that's in that art expression form of fighting, does really well in like a ONE FC sort of setting or
Yeah.
I really
some
like
Asian.
what they're doing as a fan purist, not
Mhm.
just of the mainstream stuff. I really like what they're doing. I think they're doing cool stuff for sure.
How much is the rule changes from league to league an impact?
Yeah, typically, from my experience at least, they're, for the most part, pretty much the same. Although, like, for instance, I fought in Canada a couple weeks ago. There were little things that were different,
Canada's always got weird stuff.
They do. They had a lot of stipulations and things that I had to, like my clearance, just medical clearance stuff. Before my last fight, in Vision, I did my blood, I did my vision, blood, physical, all the rest of that. And, they wanted me to do pretty much everything over again if it had been like 30 days, And so only thing I was able to send in, I think it was 90 days. I had done it within 90 days was my vision. So I didn't have to do that again.
Okay.
I had to do like the physical and blood work again. And, so, and then when I get there too, they had some rule about shaving your beard.
Yeah, I was
bro.
Yeah.
Bro, they took my powers right before I got in.
Dude.
Like I identify a little bit with my big old beard that I grew, and it felt good. And now they shave me up, give me pretty boy status before I go in the cage. And,
Dude, that is such a weird rule.
Yeah, but not only that, but check this out. They tell me at weigh-ins, I'm already signed the contract. I came to your country, all the rest of it, and now I'm getting all this information about things I have to do. I'm going to do it because I'm not going to go all the way over there and not fight.
Right. Cut the weight.
You could have told me to, yeah, exactly.
You
You could have told me to clean shave. I would have been very upset, but I would have done it too.
Right.
But here's the thing. So I trim, he doesn't specify what trim means to them. I get to the fight. I'm sitting there all night. Co-main event is out. I'm the main event. They're taking me to the back to shave more because the commission came out and told me like it's still too long. And I'm sitting there like, in a kind of a like, what the, you mother, and all the rest of it. You serious? You throwing me off? I'm sitting here trying to warm up. This dude's out there fighting. He could finish at any moment. And you want me to go in the back and shave some more? Are you serious? I was so upset, and they were trying to take scissors. I was like, look, I innately knew. I knew in my spirit something was about to happen. I brought my shaver because I knew you guys were going to be on some bull. So I got this. You just follow me and you tell me how short it gets, or whatever. So I ended up having to shave a little more. And I was asking him like, why is this a rule? And supposedly if they have to stitch you, they need a short. And he's like, well, in the rules, you're supposed to be even clean shaving, but I'm making more of an exception, blah, blah. I'm like, all right, man. And I ended up trying to play it cool, and I had to fight to keep it even as long as I had it, which was pretty short still,
Yeah. That is that. Well, you know what? I will say this. I had one time I got hit in the face with a shot with a puck, and I had a beard.
Yeah.
And I had to get a bunch of stitches in my chin, and I didn't have it wasn't a big beard. It was a small beard, and it was like stubble. It was the worst thing ever because we super glued it a few times so I could finish the game. And then afterward, I had to get stitches because it kept opening up.
Yeah.
And we had to shave the beard and the glue.
Yeah.
And it was sticking. Oh, God, that was the worst. But Canada's always got weird stuff. Like you have to wear a neck guard if you play hockey in Canada, like even like semi-pro level, you still gotta wear a neck guard.
It's not even to really protect you from a shot. It's more so like it's really just this cloth Velcro band. It's like what you would put on like like an ankle weight without the weight. Yeah, around your neck.
Dude, that sounds horrible.
It's the stupidest thing, and they make you wear it. I guess like if
a skate, it
but
covers you if
I mean that is a rare occurrence.
Yeah, right.
Very rare.
But yeah, Canada's looking out for their people, I guess.
Yeah, but beyond that, I don't have too much bad to say about Canada. They're very nice people.
Very nice people.
So.
But yeah, that's cool. So as far as that goes, now is that the same like is that just a commission thing in Canada?
That from my understanding, that was a commission thing.
Okay, so it's not necessarily just a league thing.
No.
Okay,
no, not to my understanding.
Okay, well that's at least they're just their
commissions are gonna commission.
They're crazy across the board.
Yeah, no, definitely.
That's good. They're consistent.
Commissions.
So you are the head jiu-jitsu instructor at Fight Ready as well. Professor.
Yeah, jiu-jitsu. Say professor.
Professor.
I don't care.
Sorry.
But no, it's fine.
I honestly,
He's only gone to 2 classes. I've at least gone to 4.
Well, that's one thing that like I really would like to get into more and learn, but that's one of those things where you've really got to be fully humble and fully all right and fully good. And then the other thing too I would struggle with is in the summertime, the gi's so hot.
Especially in Fight Ready, that night class.
And then I got Z on top of me. Dude. He's big man. And I was getting overheated and I was out of shape.
Yeah. No, I definitely remember those days. My first gi, I advise to anybody who wants to start jiu-jitsu, don't go out and get the nicest lightweight gi you can.
Yeah.
Don't do it. When you first start, get a heavy, miserable carpet roll, put it on, suffer.
Hey,
Right? Because that's what I didn't know. I didn't do that intentionally. It was just where I first started. They had just janky gis that were just, the cheapest ones, but they were heavy and miserable. And I remember going into my first competition, and after like my first match, I was so friggin' hot. And I wanted to take this thing over, and Gustavo Dantes comes over to me, and he's a great guy. One of the guys responsible for bringing jiu-jitsu, especially the competitions, to Arizona. He's running the tournaments. He comes, he's like, Paris, put your gi back on, and I'm like, oh, this thing's so hot, And another real quick funny story, my coach told me a story about training with his professor, Roberto Traven. So Carlos Frias is my jiu-jitsu professor I'm under, amazing gentleman. And his professor is Roberto Traven, who's actually one of the original UFC fighters as well. So I got a good lineage that I come from. And he told me a story about going to train with him in Atlanta. He's like, you got to bring 2 gis, and, you're going to sweat one out within the first couple hours, and, you're still going to be rolling and stuff. And, he told me about taking his gi off in there one time, and his professor told him, hey, put your gi back on. He's like, I feel like I'm going to die. He's like, then you die with your gi on. Answer, right? I always love that.
That is awesome. You die with your gi on. Gosh, how important, you mentioned lineage real quick. How important is that in terms of black belts? Because how many people in jiu-jitsu are black belts, but
are they black belts?
Yeah.
Well, it's like the saying goes, there's black belts and then there's black belts.
Right.
It's not all the same. And in jiu-jitsu, I feel like it's one of the few martial arts where the black belt is respected still. It's not karate, it's not taekwondo. No offense to them, but in a lot of forms or a lot of ways in this country, it's been commercialized.
Yeah.
So you have this 12-year-old with a black belt. You have this 10-year-old with a black belt. That's ridiculous. Yeah. Right? Because somebody that knows nothing, that might be just a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger, is going to punch him in the face, and it's over, right?
100%.
It's like in jiu-jitsu, you can't get a black belt until you're at least 18. Right. You can't get a blue belt, the second belt in the adult system, until you're 16. So we don't play that.
Yeah.
Right. So it's
real strict.
And on top of that, it takes, for most, I was always told when I first started, they're like, it's probably going to take you about 10 years. That's like the average time it takes.
Yeah. And that's
another, you're a little under that, but but no one else incredible. Is putting in,
that kind of,
put in that kind of work.
Absolutely.
For the 2 days.
It reminds me of another funny joke that people say, they say, how long does it take the average person to get a black belt? The average person will never get a black belt.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Right?
That's a good way to. That's perspective, right?
That is
there.
perspective.
That is a good perspective.
The average person that does attain a black belt, it does take about 10 years. Right?
Man,
that's a lot of dedication. And time. But as far as lineage, like you said, I think a lot of that speaks to credibility. Yeah, that's really what it is. That lineage isn't just this to kind of puff your chest up. It's like you're representing. People that have done great things and held themselves to a high standard, and you want to kind of be under that. I'm very proud of the lineage that I come from. So
yeah, I think it's one of like the truest forms of being able to show or build credibility, because it shows you who you were influenced by and who helped teach you, and you can see, them and their whole career, and then what influenced them, and so on and so forth, versus like, there are a lot of things that people think lend credibility, but really don't. Like there's really no merit. Having a nice car doesn't give you credibility in business. Yeah. Wearing whatever watch. Those sort of things, or being a sales leader in a sales job. Yeah. Like they can sometimes help, but it's not a true, real way to do it, outside of knowledge and expertise.
Absolutely. Now, there's a difference between looking the part and then being qualified for it.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's cool.
One thing I wanted to ask, just because I'm sure it'll help a lot of young up-and-coming fighters, but I remember when I was training a lot, I always kind of I started out with gi, and then stopped because I thought it was going to hurt me for MMA. Because sometimes you hear from certain coaches and certain things where they say, don't do the gi. Then they say only do gi. Where's your mindset with that? Or what's your advice to the up and coming guys who are afraid of maybe gi or not sure which way to go?
Yeah, I guess it depends on the individual. I can only just give my opinion on it, and I feel that putting on the gi is a great thing for a lot of reasons. One, it's a lot of grip strength for one, that resistance strength that you're building from holding people in position. And, like I said, when people's trying to yank away, you get very strong, not just your grips, but your whole body is used to a resistance, that you're always fighting against, which makes you very strong, and very conditioned. The other thing is it's a martial art, and there's something about putting on the gi that kind of helps you to get outside of maybe just a fighter mindset of force, punch, swing. It becomes now an artistic, because even though people are saying I'm a mixed martial artist, the artist portion of it sometimes is lacking and you're just a fighter.
Yeah.
Like I tell my students sometimes, using the analogy of, this is a martial art. The art implies that there's an artist. You're the artist, right? So what I'm going to do is just give you the colors. I'm going to give you the palette. This canvas here that we're on is literally your canvas to do your art on. I can't tell you how to draw. I can't tell you what beautiful picture to create, through your movement, your styles, whether it's your length, your strength, your speed, whatever it is, that's your art and how you're going to form it. I'm just going to show you these colors and palettes and then suggest things that you might be able to do and then just let you go at it. So
Yeah, that is.
See, now I'm super amped up. I'm gonna go buy a new gi right now, dude. Going in on Monday.
I know. That was good, dude.
It's a great thing, man.
I really want to get into
that
more.
too. It didn't take me long to realize that like gi, once I get back into grappling and doing 2 sessions a day and whatnot, then it's gis for me, just because it's that, and there's so much to that, to where it almost slows everything down in the sense. Absolutely. Not necessarily slows it down to where like if we're rolling, but slows it down to where like it is a martial art. I'm doing this is a creative outlet, if you will. When I am rolling, I really have the freedom to do everything. I just have to make sure the technique's right, obviously. But
absolutely,
And then you're not getting hurt or hurting other people too. That's a big piece of it.
Yeah,
new guy muscling.
Yeah. You gotta calm them down real quick. The white belt fury is a real thing, right? Another thing I appreciate about it is the community aspect. I think we're lacking a lot of community these days, and everything's about status. And I can't hang out with certain people if they're not making the same kind of money or doing this or that. Jiu-jitsu, like my students, and a lot of them are friends of mine now as well, and that's another line you have to kind of carefully walk. And but I will say that to see like this guy who's a doctor, this guy who works for Cox Communication, this guy's a pilot, this guy does insurance, this guy, it's all these different people that probably wouldn't, necessarily hang out, if it wasn't like something like jiu-jitsu that made us, gave us a common bond.
Right.
So
yeah, that is huge, because I was gonna say that too. It's almost like, when you're so young and you're playing team sports and you go to football, and then those are all your friends, and then that's your social outlet. We lose that as we get older, because we start working. We stop having recess. We stop having playtime. We stop having, that time.
Start making families. And
exactly.
You got to hang out with people that have kids and not, the single friends. And absolutely.
So it really just, I feel like for at least an hour and the 30 minutes after that, everyone usually sticks around to talk is so huge. And even still for me, that's huge, because, we spend so much time working all the time that, it's nice to get out and actually be with the community.
Yeah. It's like the owner of Fight Ready, a mentor of mine, Dave Zowine, he has a great thing he always instills in us, is relationships are huge. They're everything. They're the reason that you'll be able to do anything. And he says you can't build relationships between 9 and 5. Right. It's what you do afterwards. It's are you calling your guys on Sunday? Are you taking them doing extra stuff? Are you team building? It's not about the time that I'm just on the mat teaching the moves of jiu-jitsu. Do I have to fly out every moment? Class is over, I'm out, guys? No. Or do I say, hey, I got time to stick around. I'll give you a couple extra rolls if you want. If you have any questions. Sunday, you guys available? You want to come to my professors? Let's go to open mat. Let's get better. We'll go to eat afterwards, whatever. It's you can't do it between 9 and 5, right? Yeah. It's that extra time you put into it. Same with fighting. It's not just the time that you're in there punching the bag and doing the stuff because, okay, it's boxing today or it's wrestling today, so I do that. But what are you doing when it's all over, right? Am I doing the stretching? Am I doing my core work? Am I still shadow boxing? Am I looking up different techniques and getting creative? You know, am I living it?
Yeah. God, that's real powerful.
Yeah, that really is.
Real
That's,
powerful.
I would say most of the battle, I'd think for most people, and some people are able to just have that already instilled in them.
Yeah.
And other people, I guess, maybe find it later on, and then some people never find it at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're starting to get low on time, but
This has been pure.
this has
heat.
been
This
absolute
great.
dude.
Yeah.
It's
Great.
awesome. That time flew, guys. That was
It
perfect.
really
Yeah.
does, man. Do you have anything else you want to add or anything? Like any announcements, anything coming up?
You know, like I said, I'm not sure if I'm gonna fight or not before the end of the year. You know, I got a few in at the end of this year in quick succession.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm resetting myself. Ended up taking a little L, unfortunately. Got to be 2 weeks tomorrow. You know, so it's pretty fresh.
Yeah.
Deciding on, you know, rehabbing, you know, myself, getting myself super healthy and ready to take one at the beginning of the year, or, you know, maybe fight at the end of the year. But beyond that, yeah, no real announcements. Definitely want to thank you guys for having me on. I think it's amazing what you're doing, following your passion. You know, it's a very brave, courageous thing to do, which a lot of people won't take a risk, won't take a chance. Small beginnings aren't a comfortable thing. You know, everybody wants to start and just everybody praise and tell me I'm amazing. It's not real.
Yeah.
Right? You know,
that's true.
so I
That's
appreciate
true.
you guys investing in, you know, fighters as well. A lot of
Dude,
people don't,
thank
you
you.
know.
Yeah, well,
Thank
thank
you,
you.
man.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
we-
without you guys, we can't do this at all. And
Yeah,
you
exactly.
guys feel our passion, you know. So your passion feels.
It's
our
all
passion,
mutual. I
and-
mean, it's all good, and we appreciate what you guys do because it's not easy.
Yeah, and all the posting, we love it. Everything that you're up to, and we can follow you
appreciate
at
that.
Paris _
Superhero 444.
Okay, that's.
Wow, and you still fucked it up earlier.
I got nervous, man.
All right.
It's the awkward
Yeah.
MMA show,
So,
bro,
yeah,
not
check me out
the
on-
comfortable MMA show.
Instagram or yeah, check me out on Facebook. You know, I have this regular Facebook page, Paris Stanford. You can look me up, or I have a fight page on there, Paris Superhero Stanford. You can look that up as well. So
Awesome.
Sweet.
All right, don't forget to follow him. Check it out.
ooh, follow Fight Ready as well. Fight
Yes.
Ready,
Fight ready.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
fall fight ready.
absolutely.
All right, guys.
Thank
Later.
you. Us. All right.
All right. Thanks, dude. That
This
was
is
great.
rad.
Yeah, thank you. We
That's fun.
appreciate you.
It's gonna be awkward.
I don't get it. You do the math.
All right, so we'll go ahead and go over just a couple basics as far as seated position and finishing and getting your choke position first and then finishing your choke as well. So I'm going to take Zach's back here. Remember, when you do take the back, very important, my hooks are in. The hooks refers to your legs kind of threaded through. Also, I want to make sure I have a good seatbelt position. I'm going to go one under the armpit, one over the shoulder. Notice, my head is always on the side that's underneath the armpit here, nice and tight. Now, bottom hand over the top is very important. If Jack goes to address and like break my grips open, look at what he did. He grabbed my top hand, right? It's the one that's underneath, so once he breaks that, I'm ready to get my choke. For here, we're gonna do a lapel choke. So as he goes to break this open, I've shifted my grip over here. So as he's pulling it out, I have time to open the collar. I'm gonna open, I'm gonna pop it, I'm gonna feed my grip in, and then I'm gonna lock myself in place by feeding that grip to me. It's super tight, I'm flush against the neck. From here, wrist motion. That already will start choking you. Now the bonus is just when I pull down on the opposite lapel, I wrist motion, and then I lean back with that. And I can get my finish. Very simple. Another technique we can work that very similar. Same thing, bottom hand on top. They go to pull their grips off. Good. We open, we pop that collar, we feed it, we lock it. Now, maybe I'm not able to get over here. He's fighting well and I can't get the other grip. I'm just gonna punch my arm through, grab my own shoulder, and then I'm gonna separate and ride down the path of my arm and get my finish. All right, so 2 very basic chokes that you can work. Once again, grips in place, bottom hand on top, they go to break open. We catch that collar on our way out, we pop it, we feed, we lock ourselves in place. Now my choices are either going to this opposite lapel, pulling down, not here. I want to feed that choke right into them, so pull straight down towards their crotch. Wrist motioning and leaning to get my finish. Or instead of grabbing, if we can't for whatever reason, or maybe this is a better technique for you, punching my arm through, lifting his and grabbing my own shoulder, and then I'm gonna ride the path of my own arm as I stretch him out and get my finish. All right, so a couple basic chokes that you can work from the back take. Okay. All right, so once again, we go seatbelt position. Good enough, so give me a good seatbelt, good, right? And I need this to shift over because you're not gonna be able to grab with this hand. So watch this once again. This is the position where you're starting.
Oh, so I don't even grab your lapel yet.
You're not good. I'm going to be defending, so I want you to control position before submission always. All right, so position. Good. Shift your grip slightly over. Boom. Now I start fighting. As I open, catch, boom, pop that collar and feed in your choke hand. Pull the slack out. Good. Now we have choices. Which one are we doing? Are we switching lapels or are we punching our arm through?
I'm going to switch lapel.
Okay. Go for the lapel switch. Pull straight down. Wrist motion and lean. Not leaning away. Lean with me.
Okay.
Take me with you. Good. So it's like lean together. The second one, we separate away.
First one lean in.
Lean with them, with me. Bring me with you when you go. The second one, you separate away from me. The first one, we go together.
Okay.
The second one, you go and you stabilize me. That's why we're doing that with the arm and pushing that back of the head. All right, so let's do that. Boom. Once again, look what happens here. Good, open. Good. Good. Now this one through. Good. Now let's separate away, straighten those arms out. So you got to keep leaning, keep straightening your arm out here. Right, so you got choke hand, through.
I'm not getting deep enough, I feel like either.
Yeah, this is a little shallow. There you go. Good, punch through. Good.
Tapped? Wait, hold on. Do it again. I wasn't looking.
No, it's right there.
Z's about to get a tap right here.
Don't tap, dude. Don't let Zeke tap.
Never try and submit a black belt.
roll it, roll it. Don't block it up. Keep that engaged like that. Put this elbow on the floor. Good. Now I'm blocking up. I want to pull my elbow towards my own hip first. Oh yeah, I'll tap probably off of that roll and that. If they don't tap after that, then we'll lift. Okay, so again, pin down, elbow to the floor. Oh, I set them out nice and heavy. And that makes me engage this roll first. Roll, pull, lift. Let's go first. Roll, pull, yeah, and then we'll take the other. See that? You wear my shirt?
What up, what up?
All right, so next up we're gonna go over just a basic triangle. We'll go over a basic triangle from our full guard position. Now, once again, very important, you have a good guard locked up. Remember, when you go in and you pull guard, try to go above the belt. I'm gonna have a little bit of clearance underneath me. I don't wanna be down here and then I can barely lock my ankles. So hike yourself up nice and close, and we're here. A little bit of clearance underneath me, right? So I have better control of his body. Now, first step, wrist control. Don't grab sleeves, too much play, too much movement. Grab the wrist. Pushing and stepping. So I'm gonna push a fist opposite side of his, to his pelvis, and I'm gonna step on that same side as well. So you have to learn pushing and stepping. I suggest drilling that a little bit, lock your guard, open again, other side, push and step. Foot to fist, lock. Once again, foot to fist. Now notice, I'm ditching one arm because I don't want it, I'm keeping the other. The one I don't want, obviously I'm pushing it in to get rid of it. The other one I do want, I start pulling it towards me when I do that motion. Once again, push and step. Now, second step is I'm gonna launch my hips up. I'm trying to ditch this arm out. I'm just gonna get right around his elbow, shoot my crotch straight up towards their face, and pull this arm in to shorten the path. Oops, sorry. And I get to here. Very important, step two. So like I said, you can build it up, start drilling those, push and step, pulling that arm and launching up, and getting to here. Notice what I'm not doing. I'm not resting here. Common mistake. People rest their leg on them, they end up locking across the back of the neck, or excuse me, the back instead of the back of the neck. So you do not want to be across 45 on their back, you want to be 90 across their back of their neck. So in a second, we're going to cut an angle. Once again, we push and step. We're launching up and pulling this arm in to shorten the path. Now, I'm going to act like this finger is pointing, telling me where to go. I'm always going to cut that angle, and then I'm going to lock at the end of my angle. So notice, I pulled his arm into my pocket, I'm across the back of the neck. I'm ready to ditch that arm, lock my triangle. It's going to be ankle behind my knee, and then I'm always going to look to pull the back of the head in, pinch my knees together, clamp down, and get my finish. Once again, double wrist control. We're pushing and stepping. We're launching up, pulling that arm in. Let's hit that angle. Act like that finger's telling you where to go. Pull it across the body. Look at, I'm looking at the temple. I lock down across the back of the side of the neck. Just disarm if you can in your armpit area. Then I'm locking my triangle and getting the back of the head. Pulling down as I hip up. Pinching my knees together. Clamping. There's your basic triangle. You're gonna push and step. Remember, you're gonna bring his fist to your foot. Now notice what you're doing. You pushed it into his arm, push it to his pelvis. Good. Go ahead, lock your guard, do it a few times. Other side now. Push the other fist in. Good. Alright. Now next step, let's go to step two. So we push and step. Good. Launching straight up. Now notice you're trying to cut an angle, you're getting to your hip already. You just want to pull that arm in and launch straight up. Stay right in front of him. And remember, it's simultaneous. It's push and step. It's not step then push. It's not, push then step. Same time. There you go. But look at this arm. Once again, you're pushing it to his arm. Not so easy, is it? No, it's not. Give him a little bit of posture. Don't break him too much more. It can break you down. Push his fist to his pelvis and step. There you go. Up. Before you lock down and cut your elbow, just go straight up and let go of his arm. You're getting rid of it. Oh, yeah. Good. Now let's push ourselves around the corner. Right. With this foot, it's going to push you flat. Don't turn your hips out. You need to pull this arm across with you. And I need you to push your whole body that way as well. Via, here, this push is going to help you. Remember, put this on his hip. That foot is going to help you to push your body this way. Turn, turn, turn. So you want to get here, so you're looking at his temple as much as you can around that corner. If you needed a temporary lock, this hand is going to grab your shin. Good. Now this foot can either step to the hip or the floor and keep cutting your angle this way. Yeah. Now we're trying to get across the back of the neck. When you get the best angle you can, then let's lock it. Good. Cinch knees together. Grab the back of the head and hip up. There we go.
Hey! First triangle.
There we go. Lock it. You can use your hand, or if you can go ahead and just lock it
How long can we last?
We just need to like breathe for a few.
It's gonna be awkward.
I don't get it. You do the math.